visitors are positively reacting to your changes or not. So having a solid reporting is extremely important for an experimentation tool, right? Is your reports reliable? Are there any error rates that can skew up the data? Are there any outliers that mess up again the reporting? Do you guys know what an AA test is? Anyone? AB test, so that's what we are doing. You guys did right now. But have you heard of AA test anywhere? Yeah, Purva, you have heard of it? No? I think you're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, Prakash did tell us what AA test was. The same version of the web page is
Okay.
created against itself.
Correct. You're not creating any changes. You're just testing the changes with the same
Mhm.
version of your page. AA test is you create a variation. And now you guys launch the editor and design the changes in your variation, right? In an AA test, you don't make any change and you test out both the versions. The reason why someone does an AA test is to see if the tool is reliable. Because if you're running an AA test, the report should be exactly the same because you're not making any changes, right? So the performance should be the same for the original and the new version because both of them are exactly the same. There are no changes. There were scenarios I have noticed in the past years where clients were running like an AA test and that AA test had a winner. Okay. Very rare, but it had a winner and they were very hyped up about it, saying that this is not reliable. How can an AA test have a winner? So there was scenarios like that, and we had to explain, okay, it's because of your traffic spike or stuff like that. But still, the question is like your tool should not allow it. So we got a lot of feedback on our reports, and so we completely enhanced it, and we have added a lot of new parameters that help you, you know, tweak a lot of things on the report side. And right now the reports are more reliable. You are able to see more parameters in terms of statistical significance, and there are a lot of things that you can modify which was not available in the old reporting. So firstly, let's understand the basic of reporting, and then we'll go into all of the details. Let me share my screen. So this is one of the tests that has been running. Okay, we are creating one change in the variation, and the metric is to track primary metric people that click on the request demo CTA. This is how the VW reports would look like once you successfully start a test. So you'll see the control and the variation, and you will see the performance of this metric for both control as well as variation. So the first, metric would be the unique conversion / visitors. This will tell you how many people were shown the control. So 4,781 of them were shown the original version, which is the control, and 29 of them ended up clicking on the requested demo, satisfying this metric. But whereas in the variation, it was around 4,800 visitors that were taken to the V1, and 40 of them clicked on the button. Now, the expected conversion rate that you see here, 0.61 and 0.86, is nothing but a median of the ratio between these values. Do you guys know what a median is? I know you might have studied this in school, but mean is like you're dividing this value by this, 29 divided by 478. But what is a median? Okay, I can give you a small example of what a median is. I did some calculations long back. Okay, for example, control and variations. You have two different versions, and you have a sample set of the conversion and visitors that are coming to this control for a span of days or hours for a specific time. Day one, you have around 619 conversions, and out of 7,490 visitors. Day two, this is the conversion, and this is the visitors that come to your website. So what happens is, to figure out the median, first we will calculate the conversion rate for each day. So on day 1, the conversion rate is 8.26, day 2 is 8.266, to 1, 8.6775. We'll round it off to 2 digits and we'll arrange it in ascending order. And the center value will be the expected conversion rate. So in this range of days, the worst possible performance for the control was 8.21, and the highest the conversion rate reached was 8.75, and the center value will be the conversion rate. This is for the variation. Right? The lowest was 9.3, the highest was 9.7, center value is expected conversion rate. So that is what you're seeing here, expected conversion rate. The lowest this conversion rate was in these time frame was 0.32. Maximum it has reached was up to 0.9. Similarly, this is for the variation. 0.4 was the lowest, and 1.17 it reached up to 1.17. So we are taking 0.83 as the most likely or expected conversion rate. You see the performance, it's fluctuating. Your day 1 control is performing 3.7 performance, then it drops. In day 2, it's 1.6, stuff like that. Now, expected improvement, okay? So with respect to the control, if I go with my variation, what is the improvement that I will achieve over my existing performance? So it shows 36% improvement. The way we calculate improvement is nothing but we subtract the sample set of the conversion rate of the control from the V1 divided by V1 into 100. So 36% over the 0.6 is nothing but 0.3% difference between both, right? Of the 36% over the 0.6%. So we have a 0.3% difference almost. And what is the probability that if I go with the variation, it will beat the control, which is my baseline? Baseline is the point of comparison, reference point. So with respect to the control, what is the probability that the variation is better? So if you can see, it's 53% here. But for VW to declare a winner, the probability should be above 95. So 95% is the winner threshold. Now, if your performance of the control and variations are exactly the same, okay, it's the same. Here also I'm getting 29 conversions. Here also I'm getting 29 conversions and same visitor count. Then the probability will be 50-50, right? For me to get this 95% probability, I'm just saying the conversion should be 29 and 120, something like that. So there should be a great difference between control and the variation. There might be scenarios where the variation is not performing as well as the control. If it is 29 clicks here, maybe in the variation I am only getting 10 clicks. If the performance of your variation is worse than the control, the probability will be less than 50%. Only if the variation is better than the control, it will increase more than 50. Okay. So for VW to give you a winner, right now in the enhanced reports, the criteria is like, see, you need to run the test for at least a week. We need to have at least 500 visitors per control and variation, more than one conversion per control and variation, and the probability should be above 95. That's about it. And it shows us that conclusion in 30 plus days, because here we don't see any great increase or decrease in the performance. So we might have to run it for some more time. So this is only for the primary metric. I can switch to secondary metrics and I can see how those metrics are performed. Here, can you see for M2, control and variation are exactly performing the same. Here it's 1.23, here 1.20 conversion rate. Since variation is performing slightly, less than the control, the probability is 49%. Your control is performing well. Okay, so now if there are scenarios where control is performing better than the variation, your improvement will be in negative. The reason is we subtract the control from the V1. So if you subtract a higher value from a lower value, that's obviously going to give you a negative improvement. Same case for this also. Subtracting 1.23 from 1.20 divided by V1 into 100 would give us a negative improvement. I can compare the metrics in the same view itself. There was also a lot of debate about why we are having this 95% winner threshold. Let's say that you guys are making some very trivial changes. I'm changing the color of the requested demo button. Let's say it's pink on DW's website. I'm changing that to red. This is not any significant change I have made. And honestly, I don't expect 95% probability in this case. I don't expect my conversion rate to, overnight increase because of that small change that I made. There might be some changes that are very trivial. And for me to expect that spike in conversion and that level of probability, I feel is quite unfair, especially when my changes are not that noticeable. It might easily be ignored by the visitors. So there might be clients that tell you, see, we don't require that 95% probability. We are happy with 70 itself. If our variation is slightly performing better than the control, we are happy with that itself. We don't really need any, great difference between the performance. Honestly, even if it performs equal to the original version, it's fine as long as it doesn't perform worse than the original. So if that is the case, in the reports 2.0, we allow you to tweak this further. All you have to do is click on in-depth data view. And once you click on it, you will be able to modify the decision probabilities. So here you can see that our variation is 53% better than the control. If I click on in-depth data view, it will show me that it's 53% better. At the same time, it's 46% worse than the control. So if it's 56%, 53 versus 46%. So that's why we require 95, because for us to be extremely sure that your changes do have an impact, before we used to stick to 95, whatever the clients say, we are like 95. It should be 95% better than the original version, and there should only be a 5%, worse than the original version. But now you can actually modify that. By default, we stick to 95, but we still give you an option to edit it. I'll click on in-depth data view. This in-depth data view will only be enabled if your visitor count increases more than 500 for each version. Right now we have 4,700 visitors, so not a problem. Now we'll edit it. When I click on edit, the first thing that I can modify is the testing objective. Like I said, by default, we want your variation that you create to be better than the control. But you can switch the testing objectives. I don't really want it to be better. I'm also fine with it being better or equivalent, like I said. Right? So if I select better or equivalent, the time will, decrease exponentially, because we are fine with it just being better or equivalent. This way the winner will also be declared. In this case, the variation is definitely better than the original version. If I switch this as a testing objective, I'm going to get a message saying that V1 is better. Right? So you can modify the testing objective from here. The next thing you're going to find is something called minimum deductible effect. Okay. Now this is a bit tricky. I don't know how to explain this, but MDA, is the smallest improvement in conversion rate that you want to deduct reliably. So the reason why we have MD is because you want to deduct every small meaningful, changes, right? Smaller changes that you create. For example, let's say you change the text of something, or you make a very non-noticeable change. these kind of changes, to see if it actually has an impact on your website, you need a lot of traffic, and the test would also run for a long time. That is why we have MD, minimum deductible effect. So your MD is set as 5% of the baseline average. So if you want to deduct at least a 5% improvement, you need more visitor and longer duration compared to me having to, deduct a 20% difference, because 20% MD I can easily deduct with lesser traffic itself, right? So it's like the smallest difference in the conversion rate that you are trying to deduct. So if even if a slightest people interacting with the variation or the change, MD is going to capture that. Now, if you have this 5% MD, let's say I have 5% MD, I'll just turn this back to 5%. And I'm getting around 50,000 visitors per month, okay? And in that case, my baseline conversion rate, let's say it's a 10%, my current control and my variation is performing at 10% conversion rate. I'm getting around 10% clicks or 10% of people that satisfy my metric, and my MD that I would like to deduct is at least 5%. That minimum deductible effect that I want to see in my conversion rate is 5%. Then my test would get over in 2 weeks if I have 50,000 visitors. But whereas for the same conversion rate for 10% and the same MD 5%, if my traffic is only 1,000 per month, then because of this MD, because of the fact that I'm getting so less traffic and I want to deduct that smallest uplift in or the difference in the performance, then my test would also run for 3 to 4 months or 4 to 5 months. So the smaller the MD, the more time your test will take to run. Okay. This is just used for people who want to eliminate any outliers or noise, and even for the smallest change that they make, they want that conversion rate to be extremely reliable, right? So that's when they assign an MD to it. Then let me go further. We have a couple of advanced settings here. This is called region of practical equivalence. In case you guys do not understand this, let me know. Okay. Now, region of practical equivalence is the range between which your conversion rate is basically insignificant. For example, your baseline conversion rate for let's say for your controller variation is 5%. We'll again take it as 5%. And if my region of practical equivalence is plus or minus 1%, that means even if my performance is 4 to 6, then we'll consider that equal to the conversion rate for the variation, right? Let's say you have a movie website, okay, right? And then in that website, you're getting the bookings for your movie as for that booking website at you're getting 12% bookings every day on that website. So if I set my region of practical equivalence as 1%, even if my booking is between 11 to 13%, I'm just going to consider that equal to my conversion rate, because that is negligible. I really don't care if it is between 11 to 13, because it's equal to what I'm getting right now, right? So that is like negligible. So we'll just exclude, or we just consider anything between that plus or minus 1% of the conversion rate as just negligible. Okay. Statistical power. Now, there were instances I told you that there was client running AA test and they had a winner declared, and they came back to us saying that this should not happen. So statistical power is basically like probability of correctly declaring an uplift. So if you have a winner, there's only 80% chance that it is a true winner. right? So when we declare a winner for when we tell you, okay, your variation is working really well, we are only 80% sure of that it's a true winner. So we can still tell them that, see, this is only 80%. If you feel that, okay, in there are scenarios where you feel that this is not correct, you can change the statistical power. You can keep it to 99%. But if you keep it 99%, you will need a very great traffic. Okay. Similarly, false positive rate. This is the probability of falsely deducting a winner or uplift when it does not exist, right? So if again you have a winner declared, there's a 10% chance that it could be a false positive. It's not actually a winner, but it's a false positive. Now, if I want to modify my winner probability, okay, I really don't need this 95% probability. If a client tells you that I want to modify it, I can change the false positive rate. If I increase the false positive rate, because see, 95% is what I want, but if I'm just like fine with 90% winner threshold or 80%, I can just modify the FP rate and the probability will accordingly decrease in this case. Right? Just a heads up. These are the decision probabilities. I know it might sound a bit confusing initially, but once you look at a lot of reports, you will get a good hang of it. I'll also share this article, just a second. It very nicely explains all of this detailed campaign data and decision probabilities. There you go. Coming back. I can filter out the data for different traffics. Like I want to compare the desktop versus mobile. I can do that. So guys, in the segmentation option, right? So you see there's a breakup of desktop and mobile. Can I use the segments to pull out the data for people that have satisfied a specific event? Let's say there's an event like scroll depth and people that click on something. If I want to pull out the data within this test for people that click on a button within the website, can I do that in this post segmentation? Is that possible? Any idea, anyone?
I don't think so. It's supposed to be predefined in the pre-segmentation rule.
Absolutely, Purva. Perfect. Yeah, that's not possible in the post segmentation. If you want to, drill down your reports based on events, you can not do it in the post segmentation. You will have to set up a pre-segment condition for that. In the post segmentation, only attributes will be available. And then there's visitor dimension. If I want to pull out like an, report, dimension specific report, like based on country, device type, region, I can select this and click on apply. So it will give me a nice breakup of the report. So most of the people that are coming to the highest number of people that have come to VW blog page are from England, followed by California, New York, Texas, and so on. And I can apply multiple filters also. So people that are coming from these regions, what are the browsers they are using? Are they using Chrome browsers? Because if we have to develop an extension for a different browser, we can be prepared for the same. England, it's Chrome, followed by Edge. Let's see, US, again, US is also Chrome. New York is also Chrome. And mostly people are using a Chrome browser. I'll just undo this. But before that, I can click on the three dots. I can download this report in an Excel format. There's a summary report as well as a detailed report that you can download. If you download a summary report, you will have day-wise conversion / visitor count. Whereas if I download the detailed report, I'll have every single information about the visitors, starting from their IP, their location, day of the week, their UTMs, every single thing. I can create my own reporting from that Excel sheet. And one more thing is the heat maps within the test. Now, within the testing reports itself, there's this option where I can pull out the heat map for the control as well as the variation. Okay, so for control, out of the people that have become a part of the test for the the control as well as variation, where are they clicking in the heat map? Just make sure, one most important thing, if you're opening up the heat map from the testing dashboard, you're not going into the insights and opening it up. The clicks that you see for the control and variation are for all the visitors that have become a part of the test. There's no sampling here. In testing, there's no sampling. I hope you guys are aware of that, right? So if I open up the heat map from here, this is for the people that have become a part of the test. Where are they clicking in the control and the variation? There's no sampling. So that way I'll have more control over my test, and I'll be able to actually analyze if the changes are driving more clicks for the variations. So in the control, I have around 71 clicks in the heat map. Let's see for the variation, how many people are clicking. Only 56 clicks compared to the control. Of course, I can tweak it a little. I can move it around, change the navigate option, and see on how the clicks are happening on different elements for desktop and mobile as well. But just by looking at it, control has slightly higher clicks. That's just it, guys. That's how the reporting works. Okay. Any doubts or questions there on this part? Just go over the article a little bit. Okay. I'll also share like a document that I have prepared on testing with some examples as to how to understand this better. Right? Just by looking at the numbers, right? Just to see how MD is calculated and how your rope is calculated. There are some formulas that I can share with you with examples also, so you'll understand better. I'll share it by this week. Cool. I'll stop presenting. You guys can just create your tests and submit it. In tomorrow's call, what we'll do is I'll show you all the rest of the features like rollout, integrations, because we're almost at the end of all the products. We just have a couple of add-ons that I would like to show you. One more week will suffice, and then you can tell me when you want to have the assessment.
Sure.
Great.
Thank you.
Shalu, most welcome. Let me stop